ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಪ್ರಜಾ ವೇದಿಕೆ ಮತ್ತು ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಸ್ಯಾಂಕಿ ಈ ಒಂದು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೆರೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಇವತ್ತು ಹಮ್ಮಿಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ನಮ್ಮ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಅತಿಥಿಗಳಾಗಿ ಇವತ್ತು ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ವಿ ಸಿಂಗ್, ವಿ ರಾಮಚಂದ್ರ ಅವರು, ಮತ್ತು ರಾಜೀವ್ ಗೌಡ ಅವರು, ಎಸ್ ಮುಕುಂದ ಅವರು, ಮತ್ತು ಮಾಡ್ರೇಟರಾಗಿ ವಾಸಂತಿ ಅವರು ಇವತ್ತು ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಮರಣ್ಣವರು ಪಾಲ್ಗೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ತಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಸಾರ್ವಜನಿಕರು ತುಂಬ ಹತ್ತಿರ ಮತ್ತು ದೂರದಿಂದ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀರಾ. ತಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸಹ BPV ಮತ್ತು ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಸ್ಯಾಂಕಿ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಕೋರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಈ ಒಂದು ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಸ್ಯಾಂಕಿ ಮತ್ತು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಪ್ರಜಾ ವೇದಿಕೆ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಕೆರೆ ಕಾರ್ಯಾಗಾರ ಆಯೋಜಿಸಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ನಮ್ಮ ಜಲಮೂಲಗಳನ್ನು ತಿಳಿಯಲು ಹಾಗೂ ಸಂರಕ್ಷಿಸಲು ನಾವು ಹೇಗೆ ಒಟ್ಟಾಗಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಎಂಬುದನ್ನು ಅರಿತು ಕೆರೆಗಳ ಹಾಗೂ ಪರಿಸರದ ಪಾಲುದಾರರನ್ನು ಒಟ್ಟುಗೂಡಿಸಲು ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಆಯೋಜಿಸಿ ಖಂಡಿತ ಇದರಿಂದ ಸಹಾಯ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ನಂಬಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ನಾವು BPV ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಸಾರ್ವಜನಿಕರ ನಾಗರಿಕ ಚಟುವಟಿಕೆಗಳನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ನೀರಿನ ನಿಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಾಗಲಿ, ಇಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು 74th ಅಮೆಂಡ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ತಿದ್ದುಪಡಿ ಪರವಾಗಲಿ, ಮತ್ತು BBMP ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟ್ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಏನಿವತ್ತು ಬಂದಿದೆ ಅದು. ಅದೇ ಥರ ನಮ್ಮ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಸ್ಯಾಂಕಿ ಅವರು ಈ ಒಂದು ಹಸಿರು ಮತ್ತು ಕೆರೆಗಳ ಸಂರಕ್ಷಣೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಮತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೆರೆಗಳನ್ನ ಹೇಗೆ ಉಳಿಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಪ್ರತ್ಯೇಕವಾಗಿ ಅವರು ಈ ಒಂದು ಮಲ್ಲೇಶ್ವರಂ ಭಾಗದಲ್ಲಿರುವಂಥ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಗಾಢವಾಗಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆದರೆ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಿಂದ, ಈ ಒಂದು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೆರೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಿಂದ BPV ಮತ್ತು ಈ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಸ್ಯಾಂಕಿ ಇಬ್ಬರೂ ಕೈ ಜೋಡಿಸಿ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಕಡೆ ಈ ಥರ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಗಳನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಜನರಿಗೆ ಅರಿವನ್ನು ಮೂಡಿಸಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ. ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಕೋರ್ತಾ, ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ರಾಜಶೇಖರ್, ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಪ್ರಜಾ ವೇದಿಕೆಯಿಂದ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
So, a quick introduction into why we are doing this convention today. I'm Preeti Sundarajan from Citizens for Sankey, and we've been working or trying to work with the BBMP, the KTCDA, understanding the rules and regulations. Smaran is helping us a lot in understanding the legalities of wetlands and how to preserve it and conserve it. And through all our discussions and meetings, what we have felt was when we approach the BBMP, then there is one person to take care of one aspect of the lake. If something is not working, I have to go to the BESCOM. If it's the trees in the catchment area, I have to go to the horticulture department. One is not talking to the other. Then there's the KTCDA. We had approached them to ask if they had given permission for the road widening. And they did not know about the project. So there seems to be many stakeholders for the lake who are not talking to each other, and that includes even us as citizens. So how do we bring, so then we were discussing this with Professor T.V. Ramachandra, and he suggested let's do a convention where all the stakeholders of the lake come together, and let's start this dialogue, because we know a lot of people have worked in the past on lakes. There are several groups who are doing a lot of work. But the dialogue has to also start between citizens, and we have found this very effective as a collective, that when we question, the department says, okay, they are asking, so we need to give them an answer. So as citizens also, we need to be informed, and we should also know where our boundaries lie with how much we can ask, how much they. So this dialogue is something that we want to start with Namma Kere, and we hope other organizations across the city also take it up and start this conversation of Namma Kere, saying, okay, now what do we do together going forward, in order to preserve and maintain our lakes. So Namma Kere is the first in this dialogue convention method, and hopefully everybody will take it forward. Thank you. We welcome. The flow of the events is first we'll have presentations and then we'll have a panel discussion. The presentations will be by Professor T.V. Ramachandra and Dr. U.V. Singh. I would welcome Professor T.V. Ramachandra to make the presentation. A short introduction. Dr. T.V. Ramachandra is the coordinator of Energy and Wetlands Research Group and convener of the Environmental Information System at Center for Ecological Studies, IISC Bengaluru. He is passionate in his work and has held various positions across the field over his career. He's enthusiastic in his search for knowledge and has published over 272 plus research papers as well as 17 plus books. Some of his well-known accomplishment is establishing an active school in research in the area of energy and the environment. He has received various awards recognizing the work he has done for the area. Dr. Ramachandra's main research interests are in the areas of energy systems, renewable energy, energy conservation, aquatic ecosystems, biodiversity, and ecological modeling. I welcome Professor to the stage to make his presentation. I also have to personally thank him. We have been umpteen number of times to his office, constantly trying to engage with him, and he's always most welcome to answer all our questions. Thank you, Professor.
Ellargu namaskara. Thank you very much for inviting me to take part in this event. And also I see many of my friends from various parts of Bangalore and other districts also have assembled. You know, when the dialogue happens, our agenda is to convey the message. Can we keep the lights on? Yeah, we keep it on. Okay. Because I don't like to speak in dark. Because the message has to go means it has to be a bright environment, okay? So, not on me, but in the audience, okay? So that today I will be talking about lakes, and I speak. When I speak without fear, sometimes it might hurt some people, but my intention is not to make anyone unhappy, but at the same time to convey the message. So, you know, the agenda of water system or when we talk about any natural ecosystem, two things happens. When natural ecosystems are in place, they are resilient to changes in climate. You know, climate change is happening, whether we agree or disagree, changes are happening. What happened in Uttarakhand or Himachal Pradesh or even in Karnataka and Kerala is a reminder that if you don't wake up today, your children will pay a heavy price. And when we maintain the ecosystem, we also have the security of water. When the water security is there, there is a food security, and of course, health will be there. And there is a resource availability to everyone, not just handful of few people, and there will be happiness among everyone. But for this to happen, one has to manage the ecosystem. You know, that is where my problem starts. Where are the people who manage the ecosystem? You know, they have to be environmentally literate. When they are environmentally literate, they will understand what is a lake, what is a river, or what are forests. Otherwise, lake is converted into cement bowl. That's what is happening in some parts of the India, and we need to put an end to that, the business of concretizing the natural entities. In fact, sometimes when people think about, you know, concretizing the Raja Kalve in the name of remodeling, it's a sin. I said, why don't we think about even concretizing our arteries and veins in our body so that many people who love concrete can also make money. Well, let us learn from nature. You know, this is how I teach. This is one or two slides. After that, I will talk about lakes. When I look at the ecosystem, you see that because of the biotic and abiotic component interacting with each other, there is a material and energy transfer happens. When you see that when energy and material transfer happen, there is no waste in the ecosystem. And whatever is left in the ecosystem, bacteria and fungi converts that into elemental form. That's why there is no waste in the nature. Where do you see waste? You see waste where waste people are there. Who are these waste people? People who are have affinity to the plastic and synthetic material which are not amenable by the nature, the waste fellows. That's where, you know, the solid waste management in Bangalore is still a problem in the knowledge city. Though we have talked about how to manage it and all, finally they want to dump the solid waste in our lakes and create a mess there. Let me talk about Bangalore, how it has become Bengaluru, and then how we lost our Bangalore. You know, when Kempe Gowda was there during that regime, we had 1,452 water bodies, 80% green cover. Because of that, temperature in the city was 14 to 16 degrees Celsius in May month, summer month. And for some period, in December, the temperature was 0 degrees Celsius. We were growing apples not very close by, Palace Orchard. If you look at the historical records, it will talk about the growing apples. But today, what are we growing? The number of water bodies has come down to 193. The greenery has come down to less than 4%. And what are we? We are not growing apples, but we are growing the waste and waste people in the region. The city, which was a garden city, has become a garbage city and now heading toward the dead city. So now let's look at how earlier rulers created the water body. See, when they planned for a town or a human habitations, they thought about the water security and security for people. That's where, if you look at, there was a lake next to the fort. You know, if you go to city market area, town hall and all those region was a lake earlier. They ensured the water security and also the fort was for providing the security for the people. And today what we have done, we still remember Kempe Gowda, but we put him near the airport so that he can inhale the dust and this one. And today the number of water bodies in the region is about 193. In fact, my group at IISC, we have studied all lakes. In fact, we know each and every lake, what is the problem and what is the solution required. First and foremost thing we need to understand is Bangalore topography. If you look at, Bangalore is about 740 square kilometer. In the 740 square kilometer of today, in 1800 we had 1,452 water bodies. You know, Bangalore topography, if you look at, broadly it's a 3 watersheds. We have KC Valley, Rushmavati and Hebbal, Nagavara Valley. You know, the river or stream was passing. Our elders just put the bund. They just made the water to stagnate so that the irrigation and drinking water requirement could be met in the region. So now, what have we done? If you look at the latest remote sensing data, you see that lakes are not interconnected. First and foremost thing which I have been telling the government of Karnataka and the various other governments across the country, re-establish the interlink among the lakes. But people want to talk about interlinking of rivers without even understanding what is the implication of that. So that is what we have to do. If you want to address the problem of flooding, let us first make sure our water flows freely in the system without any blockages. Whoever is sitting in this lake, Raja Kaluways or the stormwater drain, we should evict them without any kind of consideration. Because of them, hundreds of people get affected. Don't think that the human rights issue comes when one person is affected. Because of that one person or one family, hundreds of other families are affected. Let's understand what is the use of wetlands or the lakes in the city. You know, this is what when I talk to the urbanized people say, in fact, in various committees when I said, people come and tell me, lakes have no relevance in Bangalore. We don't require lakes. But these fellows, I don't know what kind of knowledge they have. I always tell them, lakes does the job of groundwater recharge. Whether you like it or not, 45% of Bangalore depends on the groundwater. Second thing is lake also gives the fish and fodder. If you don't eat fish and fodder, at least I see you going around in the lake in the evening or early morning for jogging. That means recreation facility is there. Then we also assign the economic value. In fact, I did that natural capital accounting and valuation of ecosystems in Karnataka recently for the United Nations. For the first time in the globe, the Karnataka has the distinction of having the natural capital accounting. Now let us look at if the lake is there, what are the benefits? See, when lakes were there, people were getting the water in the wells at 80 to 100 feet. When the lakes were removed in 4 or 5 years, it went down to 500 to 600 feet. Today, in the same location, after 22 or 23 years, people have gone down 1,900 feet. They have not got water. Now that's why we are going to Chandra, searching for water, okay? Then, and the rejuvenated lake, that's where we say the lake has to be rejuvenated. When the lakes are rejuvenated, surrounding groundwater gets improved, that groundwater table. That's what we saw in Saraki. About from 800 feet to 350 feet kind of a situation. And we also, in some other place, we put the sensors to understand how much water get infiltrated if the catchment has the vegetation cover or if it is urbanized. We found that catchment, when it has the native vegetation cover, it allows the percolation of rain to an extent of 40 to 60%, which will sustain the water requirement during the post-monsoon period. That's where the lakes are perennial. But in Bangalore, because we have concretized, there is no percolation happening. But what we are doing, thanks to BWSSB, we are keeping the sewage in the lake so that you see a water all the time. When lake is not polluted, what is the worth? Let us see. It gives the fish, fodder, etc. to an extent of about 10,500 rupees per hectare per day. I challenge anybody on the earth, let them prove any other, this one is better than this on economic terms, because I work in the area of economic, natural capital accounting, etc. And when we pollute the lake, it comes down to 20 rupees per day per hectare. Who are the people get affected? People who depend on the lake, or the fishermen, washerwomen, farmers, etc. And that section of the society gets affected. Who are the people responsible for the mismanagement of the lake? People like us. See, we are the one responsible for that. So now we also looked at what is the worth of the ecosystem. This gives the per hectare value. I will not get into the numbers of that. As far as the today's meeting is concerned, there is an article, I have put it online, on the natural capital accounting of the lakes in Karnataka. There are 36,000 lakes in Karnataka. We have looked at all the lakes, and also the coastal wetlands. And per year in this glass facade building, it becomes 14,000. Let's see the implication of that. When the city was relatively green, the temperature was 21 degrees. It became 24 degrees in 2000, or 28 degrees in the 2010. Today is about 34 to 37 degrees Celsius. And also we tried from the center of the city, moved in a direction. You see, wherever the water bodies are there, wherever the greeneries are there, temperature is 2 degrees lower. That is a job done by these natural entities. The microclimate moderation is another service provided by these wetlands and the trees, etc. Now, let us look at the floods. Whenever the tragedy happens, it makes one section of the society to loot the resources. That happens in the flooding. Every time when flooding happens, when pictures comes like this, when a kind of journalists report about it, when it becomes emotional, the government also becomes more active. They release the money. They sanction 1,000 crores, 1,300 crores. You look at every 5 years, I see 1,000 crore for the rejuvenation of the Raja Kaluve, or remodeling of the Raja Kaluve. What are we doing? Lakes are interconnected. We have lost the connectivity. Naturally, that region becomes vulnerable to floods. Then, we are, in the name of remodeling, we are concretizing the drain. I have been talking about this from the last 1.5 decades. Remodeling of the drain, the two things are happening. The drain, which was supposed to be 80 meters between Balandur and Agaram, in the name of remodeling, 18 meters it has become. See, that's what we did, the cadastral map versus the current this one. And because of that, there was a flooding in the Koramangala region. When flooding happened, naturally people get agitated. When people were agitated, what did my friends, the bureaucrats did? Babus did? They put one more drain parallel to this drain. Sir, there is a limit for mismanagement and wasting the public money. This is what is happening. And the regions which are supposed to be conserved are concretized. Now, between the two lakes, the region is a wetland. It has to be conserved. And as per the norm, it has to be conserved. But we allow the concretization, encroachment of the region. You will see all tech park there, prestige tech park, and all of them will be floating in water when it rains. So, and this is the level of concretization that happened in the Vartur and Belandur catchments. Okay? And if you look at this one, how this, between two lakes, the wetlands are being gradually removed. And see, these are all, if you look at wetland rule of 2017 or 2010, talks about maintaining the integrity of the ecosystem. But we are not even looking at the rule. We make our own rule. We have the people who think how to make more money. And that's good example is KTCDA now. You can have roads about the lake. You can have anything on the lake, but not the people. Okay? Now, let us look at how we are also doing. See, we dump solid waste. We encroach the lake. If I try to say that I have a land of 40 by 60, and if 1 feet extra this side, action is taken. But Lakeview apartments come, they let the sewage into the lake. When the lake is fed with the untreated sewage, you will see profuse growth of macrophyte. These are invasive weeds. And when the profuse growth of macrophyte happens, it doesn't allow the water, the sunlight to penetrate. In the absence of sunlight, you will not see the ecosystem functioning. That's what if you want to see, since there is no sunlight, the producer is not there in the lake, algae. Since algae is not there, zooplankton is not there, or a fish is not there. That's where the worth of the lake ecosystem comes down from 10,500 rupees per hectare per day to come to 20 rupees per hectare per day. You might say, sir, Bangalore is a garden city, green city. Why are you unhappy when you see green on the lake? This is a tragedy. And what do? We load the lake with the effluent, industrial effluents and the sewage. And the consequence is this frothing of the lake under fire. I have visited many countries. I worked in many countries. No one has shown the coexistence of fire and water except Bangaloreans. Okay? And what is the solution for the froth which is coming to the road? Because this media made a big noise, international and national media. So our friends came up with a barricade. They said that once we have barricade, froth will not come to the road. I wrote an article saying that this is an ad hoc decision. You should solve the problem at the source. And people who matters, let me not name them, they called and said, you are a critic. You always speak like this. So nothing new in that. I said, sir, your solution is 4 days. My solution is a sustainable solution. I think about the lifetime of a person or the generation to come. And as I predicted in that article, the froth crossed over in the barricade in 4 or 5 days. In the process, people told me, you didn't understand the essence of this project. I said, what is the essence? We have spent 2 crores. 2 crores, 40% of that you can imagine. Okay. And now let us look at in the free world how we are also distributing the pollutant. We did a study in the lake and surrounding area, people cultivate the vegetables in the vicinity of the lake. We collected those samples and a fish sample from the lake. We analyzed them. We found all of them having heavy metal. Dr. Meenakshi Bharat is in the audience. She will tell what will happen if too much of heavy metal in our food. Then kidney failure, cancer will happen. Kidney failure, which was 1 in 1 lakh about 12 years back, today it's 1 in 5,000. That's where we are very happy in inaugurating dialysis unit in each ward than solving the health of the city problem. This is a problem, ridiculous. Now, of course, when you rejuvenate the lake, what are the benefits, let us see. See, if local people take part, they are the active stakeholders of the system. When they take part, when they rejuvenate the lake, the silt, which does not have contaminant, can be used in the agriculture field or for growing the vegetable. This is what happened in one of the lake. After when I said that there are no contaminants, they agreed to take the lake, the silt from the lake. And after 4 months, when I visited, Each farmer tells me they earn 1,50,000 rupees per acre per one season. Every year 3 crops come, like radish, the pudina, spinach, etc. They were getting 1.5 lakh. 400 acres land we gave this sill. You can imagine 400 into 1.5 into 3 times. What is the thing? That is the worth of the system, okay? Now, what can be done in a city like us? We should feel for the lake. Namma Kere. Not just the banner, we should really feel for it. We should not allow anybody to mismanage the lake. Altering the integrity of the lake, physical integrity, is a sin. Why did we allow the concretization? Even a good example is Sankey Lake. I've been telling, you cannot go on increasing this one in the name. People want for jogging path, etc. Yesterday, jogging path is 5 feet. Today, it became 20 feet. Does our people grown horizontally by that much to jog? This is a limit. And second thing is, we had put the fountains. It was doing a wonderful job of aeration in the lake in the name of rejuvenation. The fountain was removed. I wrote couple of mails to the CA of the concerned lake division in BBMP. Every time I was told it will be done in a few months. They wanted to junk this fountain so that they can have a new fountain and associated money with that. See, this is where, when every bureaucrat think of making money, we see the problem in the system. So, the same people, when they are retired, they come to my lab. They show so much concern for the lake and ecosystem. When they had the power, it would have been wonderful. So then, why they come to my lab? Because some tragedy would have happened at home, which concurs with the statement I do. So they realize, okay, this man might give the solution for that papa. So I'm not a saint, but this is the thing, okay? Now, what can be done in a city like Bangalore? One is, let us do the wastewater treatment. Let us not let the sewage into the lake. Look at the Sankey Lake, sewage comes there. How do you know sewage comes? We have underground thing, invisible pipe, how do you know? But biological organism in the lake tells me when the species turnover happens from the one kind of the algae to other kind, nutrient-rich environment, the microcystis and blue-green algae, such thing, turnover happens. We know that nutrients are coming in the lake. So I don't have to do anything. So how we can rejuvenate the lake? We have to arrest the untreated sewage coming to the lake. We can do that. Then rainwater harvesting should happen in the city. We should have mini forest in each walk. You might say, what is the proof for your statement? I'll substantiate now. And second thing is, we should invest on environmental education. We should make more and more people know about environmental issues, consequences of mismanagement. Now, this wastewater treatment, Jakkur Lake, if you look at 2005, surrounding area, there are 25 wells were there. When we were monitoring at that time, we reported there are nitrate. Nitrate is a carcinogen which introduces cancer. We pushed the government to rejuvenate the lake. Fortunately, at that time, people used to listen to us. When they took up the rejuvenation, they constituted a committee. I was a member of the committee, and Mr. Siddhaya was a commissioner of the thing. Quite receptive person. And at that time, he told me that he can have only secondary treatment plant, so we cannot have tertiary treatment. As you all know, the treatment of wastewater has 3 levels: primary, secondary, tertiary. Primary removes the large particles, secondary treatment will remove the chemical ion, tertiary treatment will remove the nutrient. Since we are letting sewage, we all eat protein, N gets in, we wash the cloth with detergent, P gets in, phosphorus gets in. So that means if N and P is not removed, still that lake rejuvenation won't happen. Then what did I do? I just integrated constructed wetland and algal pond. For the last 10 years, my students monitored that. We prepared a report sometime about 2 years back, and we put it on the net. This report is available online. It is doing the job. Constructed wetland and algal pond is providing the tertiary level treatment service. About 85 to 90% of the contaminants are removed. Nutrients have been removed. And today when we monitor the Jakkur Lake and surrounding, there are 300 wells. None of the wells have nitrate. At least I have the satisfaction that I have taken the science to society and making sure 300 the well users having water without any contaminants. Well, now what could be done? I'll take another 3 or 4 minutes. So I saw the time, it was 1 minute to 11 o'clock. You had told me a half an hour. I started at 10:35. I have the right to go till 11:05. Okay. That is what we should assert. The day when we assert that lake is mine, you have no right to pollute, the conservation happens. And let us look at how the water harvesting could solve the problem of Bangalore. 700 to 850 millimeter rainfall in the city gets you the 15 TMC of water, where the city requires 18 TMC of water. When you do the harvesting of the rainwater, each house will have, rooftop harvesting will have 3 to 4 months additional water. When you rejuvenate the lake, retain the rainwater in the lake, 15 TMC you can store it. And you will meet 70% of the water requirement in the city. If you are using 18 TMC of water, you are also generating 18 TMC of wastewater, which means if I treat it similar to the Jakkur model, I have 16 TMC of treated water. 15 plus 16 TMC, I'll have 31 TMC of water in a region where 18 TMC is required. Instead of implementing this, what are we thinking? Make it that too. Milking cows and milking makers, we want to take advantage. We want to submerge 5,000 hectares of land, which is doing the hydrological service of storing 100 TMC of water and releasing the water to the downstream during the post-monsoon. We want to replace that ecosystem with the concrete dam, which can store 65 TMC of water. And what is the ecological service we are doing? At least 10 times higher than the cost of the money that is being spent for constructing the dam. Professor Rajiv Gowda is here. I want him to take this message to my friends who are ruling the city, the state. I want the things to, first let us look at all the solution, and then if it is inevitable, let's go for the ultimate one. For this to happen, I have 5R formula. First R is a responsible citizen. I've been traveling across the country and globe. I'm trying to communicate. Responsible. When people know the environmental knowledge, have the environmental knowledge, they become sensible. When they become sensible, they are responsible. Responsible citizen will make sure lake is not contaminated, lake is rejuvenated, and I can retain the rainwater. And also they make sure that wastewater is treated so that no contaminant get into the system. Well, what did you do? Are you giving only lectures or are this? You come to my campus. I have created a water body which stores 10 lakh liters of water. My students use this lake for doing biofuel study. Not only my student, even otter, I don't know from where it has come, it has landed in my home and it is happy. I don't go and feed fish every day. Otter is a voracious eater of fish. But when we did biodiversity study, we saw there is enough fish, algae, zooplankton in the system. Message here is, you just facilitate. Nature knows how to build the ecosystem and take care of everyone. What is the message here? I stay on the campus. I require about 1 lakh liters of water every year. My family requires. And I am putting back 10 times that. Give back 10 times. Then there won't be any poverty or the scarcity of resource. This is the message we require. What we consume, at least 10 times that, we should give it back to the system. Then there won't be any scarcity. And when I meet people, the region where the drought was there, we created a water body, our desilting of the lake was done. There was no water crisis the last 2 years after that. And when I meet youth, the success is always because of the sensible and responsible youth. When they are there, we make sure they implement. That's what happened in Mudbidre. Lake was created. And nature-based solution of having the greenery of native species were done. Next year, when I visit the same place as the guest faculty, I see a greenery with abundant water. And on the lighter side, because there are some youngsters who will take this message, the person who created this, who owns this land, was a bachelor. But after creating this ecosystem, within 6 months, he gets a partner who take care of the family. Unlike people in Bangalore, get the partner through the Facebook, all these faceless fellows. The next month, they will be thinking of filing the paper. Okay? So then, let us, you come to the campus, you will see this climber. I was fascinated by the architecture. I got into the campus, the seats, and out of 14, 7 I planted in 7 locations. Out of 7, only 1 has survived. Where it has survived? Next to the building where I've been working. Even the plants know who will take care. Okay? Then in front of this building, we created a mini forest. These are all when you are young, you will do. When you cross 35, 40, you become too selfish. You will think how to improve the treasury at home and treasury for their great-grandchildren. You know, when we, 49 native species, 500 saplings were planted in 2 hectares area. Today you come there, you get a feel of the rainforest. Not only you will see my friends, you know, slender lories, varieties of biota there. And more importantly, temperature in the campus is 2 degrees lower than the city. And in this region, another 2 degrees lower. Microclimate moderation is also this. And other interesting thing, groundwater, which was 150 feet earlier when the region was dominated by Parthenium invasive weed. Today, you have to search for Parthenium in that region. And groundwater is 10 to 15 feet. Now, the solution for water in the city is not make a datu, create mini forest in each ward and bring awareness among the citizens and rejuvenate the lake, because 193 lakes, 198 ward. What a wonderful situation. If every group owns the lake, no one can mismanage the lake. Well, that's what we are doing. We are sensitizing the youth and also people who are working in industry and university. We offer a course on environmental management. I've been doing for the last 2 decades. 21st batch I have announced, which will begin next week. Okay? And we organize a symposium popularly known as Lake Symposium. It's a biennial event. You know the uniqueness of this event, when the international and national experts come, even my school and college students take part. You know, when they take part, knowledge, they acquire knowledge. And on the concluding day, they do the presentation. That becomes quite popular. When they do that, you know, their confidence level goes up. That's why my students who took part in the event today are the faculty in the organization like IITs and IISC, etc. So what this is the forum, okay? This is how the children do carbon monitoring or the wetland monitoring. You know, every school which is next to the lake, we make them to monitor. And, you know, those of you who want more details can go to this website. And also in my website, all my publications are put. There are 350 articles I have written, which is available online. The copyright issues of my book, I have not put e-version there, okay? So if you need more details, you can get into this. Thank you very much for listening to me. And I don't know how long we will be there. I just want you to take this message forward as an ambassador. Because when we talk truth, people don't appreciate. I get a threatening thing. 3 times we have escaped, myself and I'm sure even UV Singh, next speaker, will also tell his experience. So we have become vulnerable entities. See, when scientists become risk category, no Z category comes. When my friends in that stone building gets the threat, they will have Z category. That Z category should be there for every lake. I'm hoping for that. Thank you very much. I can take 1 or 2 questions if you allow. In the end. If they forget the questions.
I have solution for that.
Yeah, we are giving out.
Thank you so much, Professor Ramachandra. That was not only were you telling us about the science, you were filling it with stories and all the different motivational things you've done over your long career. Thank you so much for helping us out as a group and for educating all of us today. I'm Siddharth. I'm part of the Citizens for Sankey group and just want to bring your attention to these half sheets of paper that we've been handing out. If you don't have one, we will get it to you. If you come up with any questions that you'd like to ask the esteemed panel that is going to be speaking later, please write it down on this sheet of paper and give us. This hall is nearly full and we won't be able to actually ask people individually to read out questions. However, if you write down your questions and give it to us, the moderation team can pull it together and ask the panelists. So please cooperate with us. I'll hand out these papers and you can always hand them back to me. or any other volunteers, people who are standing around and looking like they know what they're doing, please hand over the sheets, and that way we can make sure all of your questions reach the panel in an organized manner. Thank you so much. Handing back to Preeti.
We would now invite Dr. U.V. Singh to make a presentation. Dr. U.V. Singh, an Indian Forest Service officer. Dr. U.V. Singh was the Chief Conservator of Forests, Karnataka, and worked in forest conservation, development, and all other allied activities for 32 years in Forest Ecology and Environment Department. Dr. U.V. Singh led the country's most comprehensive investigation into illegal mining in Karnataka. He was the chief investigator in the Lokayukta team. He was also a member of Justice M.B. Shah-led commission inquiring into illegal mining in states. He has worked in lake conservation and development in the state of Karnataka. Dr. U.V. Singh worked in the Lake Development Authority and as an expert member in monitoring committee of National Green Tribunal. Dr. U.V. Singh worked on drafting the Karnataka Lake Conservation and Development Act of 2015. We welcome Dr. U.V. Singh onto the stage.
So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good audience of elite community of Bangalore. Professor Ramachandra, as usual, was full of data and then some stories and all sort of things. Take you through what exactly, not only in the lakes, but in the other fields of the environment also. But I will mainly concentrate on the lakes, and that too also not on the technical parts, on the administrative part. Because after having about more than some 17 or 18 years of experience closely working with the lakes, I found that administrative decisions at various levels and at various times make a lot of difference. And whatever today it is because of all the things, it is because of the administrative decisions. Not to blame anybody, but it might have been thought that this is the correct decision at that particular time. Some decision has been taken, and based on that, we have reached at this stage where we are exclusively talking about the lakes, its performances in past, in distant past, in past, present, and then what may be the future. And with that sort of a thinking, I will just start it from almost 38 years back. What was the scenario? That was the time when I also landed there in Karnataka from Rajasthan. And at that time, in 1985, there was a lot of things it was been happening, particularly for the lakes, and that too also out and right allotment of the lakes for various purposes and all that, and making them the disuse, generally breaking the bands and all that, and then in the various names. And one of the reason what was being caught at that time was that there is a lot of malaria is spreading in the Bangalore, and lakes are one of the region to spread the malaria. So bridge the bands and then take out the water and then make it dry. once they become dried, after that one, all other activities has grown up and come up. And because of that, today this is the situation. So, in those circumstances, there was the one committee constituted, most of you might be knowing it, the Lakshman Rao committee. And in that Lakshman Rao committee, they have studied some of the areas of Bangalore and around Bangalore also. Particularly at that time, there was the concept of the green belt. Now, of course, the green belt is abolished and there is nothing like the green belt around the Bangalore. So, in the urban areas, at that time, of course, I know it that there was a not full account of the lakes that was being given in that particular report. They have identified around 127 lakes. And out of that 127 lakes, there were 46 lakes which made them disused. There was no water in that. So in 1985 itself, out of the 27 lakes, there were the 46 lakes which were not having the water. If you really go to the history, slightly, I will take you slightly back to that one, that some of the tanks including our Sankey and then many others, Dharma Buddhi and all that, of course, that is the period of Kempegoda first. There were always interlinkage with these tanks through the Raj Kalways, now we used to call it. Earlier there was the natural channels. And because of that, this urbanization, most of that, they have become the defunct, or rather it has been encroached and closed. And because of that, not having the water source to flow in those particular lakes or the ponds or the tanks, they have become dried, and subsequently, the state government, with their own wisdoms, they have allowed them to constructions and all sort of things. It has happened. Of course, there is no point to talk about right now. Now, if you really see it, the administration as such, there is the apex body now. Right now, everything runs through the courts. The stage has come. The courts has become the main functionaries to get the things done in the societies. It's not a very healthy sign. All these four pillars used to be called as a democracy. If they are not performing their own jobs and doing somebody's jobs, then this whole sort of the things happens. And that is what exactly it is happening now. Below the courts, there are the legislation. They frame the laws. And those laws is supposed to be implemented by the executives. And below the executives, of course, the press and all that it is being called. But I personally feel is that public is the another stakeholders or the part of the administration. So this is the four main categories, or broad categories rather I can say it, that all the administrations moves around these all four categories. And in that, there is that the next one is, you have to put it, okay. In that scenario, after the Lakshman Rao Committee's report in 1986, there was some 5, 6, or of course there was some 13, 14 recommendations. Out of this, I feel it that there were the 4 or 5 recommendations which is most relevant at that time. And the same recommendation, even today's committees or the court orders, same thing it is happening. Same thing it is coming. There is no change in that as far as recommendations is concerned. Means the problem, what it was there in 1985, 86, 87, existing the same things today also. there is not much improvement in that. And with that, there was one or two, some sort of, I will not, with all the due regards to that committee, which was been having very eminent peoples also, expert members and all sort of things. Of course, there were the 3 or 4 forest officers. They might have been influenced. There was one very prominent sort of a recommendations that all these disused tanks at that time counted as 46. The list is given in that one. They should be planted. And after having the plantation, slowly all those 46 tanks, slowly it get diverted in various activities by the governments with the wisdom. So, at that time, one sort of a recommendation made, I feel that that should not have been there in that particular committee's report. It should have been that whatever the disused tanks available, which is not having any sort of urbanizations and buildings and all sort of things, should have been revived. And had that been process toned at that time, there might have been slightly different thinking, even as on date. But that is the past. It has happened and happened. There is nothing like to, at the time it was been thought that some greenery will come, and then will be, there are so many other water bodies that will be taken care of. But that has not stopped at that time. So from 1986, what the report it was being submitted, up to 2002, there was a lot of other recommendations. One recommendation was also there that some of the areas which is having good catchment areas and all that, there should be constructions of the new tanks. But that has never happened. I have not found any sort of a tank that has been constructed. Maybe the Ramachandra, he was telling that he has constructed something there in the Indian Institute of Science. But in a public as a whole, I don't think that after 1986, any tank has come in these metropolitan area or corporation areas. So, in 2002, then there was a lot of things it was been happening because of the allotments, encroachments and sort of things. The government came out, because always government comes out something when there is the big crisis. I'm not telling only the crisis, when there is the big crisis, we always act to solve that crisis. So, government has formed the Lake Development Authority. The biggest problem of the Lake Development Authority was to give them the lot of responsibilities without having any sort of a powers. And they had their own wisdom with the help of some at the time forest department, because the forest, these lakes, as per this Lakshman Rao committee report, was handed over to the forest department. So they were having the custody of these lakes for near about more than some 15 to 20 years. And in that Lake Development Authority, they have given some management, then some sort of a monitoring, coordinations, development, all sort of things. It has been put it in for their preambles and all sort of things, but without having any sort of a powers. And it was happening. They were doing something here and there and all sort of things with not very good success and all. Subsequently, when this situation didn't improve, there was one writ petition, it was filed before the High Court, 817 of 2008 by some group. And in that one, it was happening in courts, of course you know it. So, after that one, this reply, that sort of things and what it is happening and all sort of things. Basically that writ petition was mainly for that the Lake Development Authority at the time, they have leased some 7-8 lakes to the various private holders to maintain and develop their own sort of things. And then it was been found by the publics or by the peoples that this sort of a development is not conducive for the ecosystem and the natural course of these lakes. So that sort of a petition is been filed. When this matter went on hearing, then court thought that now there should be some concrete things should be done. So they have again formed one committee, Justice N.K. Patil committee, you might be knowing it. So in that committee, again, there was these members and all that, including LDA, it was been there. I was also there for a time being in that committee. So they have again submitted one sort of a report in 2012. At that time, some 300 and all sort of tanks, it was been identified by them in the committee. And that report was also having almost the same recommendations what it was been there in the Lakshman Rao committee. Almost the same, some sort of a changes here and there, and then how exactly it should be done, who has to do and all sort of things. So it was been happening at the time. And of course, there were so many recommendations, many things it was been there. So there was nothing, not much happened. Again, the things were happening in the same manner what it was been happening in the past and present. And there was again then started, I think, the contempt and all sort of things it was started. So they asked that let's form one sort of a exclusive law for the tanks, particularly in Bangalore and outside the Bangalore. So at that time, there were the two laws it was been, or acts it was been framed. One was Lake Development Authority Act, that was 2014. Of course, it came into implementation in 2015. And then this Karnataka Tank Conservation and Development Authority Act, 2015. Both the acts almost came simultaneously within the span of 1 or 2 months. One was for exclusively for the Bangalore and the corporation areas. Another one was for the outside the corporation areas. This Tank Authority Act was outside this one, and the Lake Development Authorities, it was been within the Bangalore. So there was so many things it was been proposed in those acts. Somehow those acts didn't pick up for a time being. Even there is a lot of things I will tell that where exactly the problem is lying with that one. Always we talk it that there are some 4 or 5 organizations which actually matters for these lakes, and there is nothing like the umbrella to actually coordinate it. But if you really see it, these acts, they are the real umbrella. The 2014, this Tank Conservation and Development Authority Act is having a body, a authority, which is not being chaired by less than a person who is heading the state, means the Chief Minister. And there should be some sort of a Chief Executive Officer, then there should be the authorized officer, there should be the designation officer. So this is all sort of things it was been there in that one. So with that authority, what it is happening is, let's come directly to what exactly the action it should be taken and all sort of things, is that the only one meeting of that authority that has been taken place in December 2019. And there is no any other meeting of that authority. Number one. Number two is, there was no any appointment of this authorized officer even as on date. Today also there is no authorized officer appointed by the state government. There are some designated officers which has been, I think the one affidavit, it was been filed somewhere on the 1st of August of this month, that some designated officers, it has been appointed and all sort of things. But the appointing of the designation officers itself won't solve the problem until unless there is the authorized officer. Most of these, if you really take that act into consideration, the courts comes in the last. There are the solutions within that act itself. Once suppose something is happening, the designation officer here, it has to take care of all sort of things, what it is happening. Then if suppose somebody is agreed with that, it has to come the authorized officer. If there is the authorized officer, he also won't come to the expectations of the aggrieved party. It has come to the session court, district court, not to the high court. And when there is the failure in the district court, it has to come to the high court and maybe to the Supreme Court next. But what it is happening today is that things are directly going to the high court. Nobody is pointing out to the high court that, look, this is all the things, what it is coming before the high court is premature. Premature in the sense that it should have gone to the concerned other authorities, and after that one it should come to the last to the high court. Because high court is at the third stage, but directly it is happening now. So the other writ petition, it was been filed in 2014. That is 38401 of 2014, which is still running. And the last order, interim order, of course, it is still pending. That came in 1/8/2023. In that one, some affidavit was filed by the Commissioner BBMP. In fact, the affidavit should have been asked to filed by the Chief Executive Officer of the KTDCA, this tank authority. They are the persons who has to take care of this one. That is not exactly it is happening. And under that particular writ petition, the other thing is that there is one amicus. And amicus is Mr. Dhyan Chanappa. You might be heard his name. He is a senior advocate. I saw near about 109 interim orders has been issued under this particular writ petition. 109. Now 109 from 2014 to up to the 2023. You can imagine it that what sort of the implementation of those sort of orders it has been happened. So this is what exactly it is. I am telling it that technical part is one part, but the other part is that what exactly the administrative role and where exactly the administrative role has to play. At what stage, whether it is playing within the law, whether it is playing outside the law, or whether we are playing without having any sort of all sort of things. So this is what exactly I feel that that's the main sort of a problem now at present is that this administrative control, it should have been systematized and synchronized, is slightly not happening. I am not telling that it is failed, because the failure is something else. I have seen the failures also, what it was been there in 2005 to 2010-11 in the mining sector. It's not like that. But there is not that it should have been come up to some expectations. And I think today we have among us the officers from the BBMP and Planning Commission. I think Mr. Rajiv Goda, he is there. He is the man now. I think he has to sensitize these things that what that has been, this legislation itself has been passed is not getting implemented properly, and because of that there is not a single umbrella, and every arm of the government is not knowing what the right hand is doing, what the left hand is doing. So there is some sort of this one. If that takes some sort of take place, the things will slightly improve. This is my feeling. It will start moving. Because any sort of a authority, if it is chaired by the Chief Minister, and he takes some sort of a review, then definitely the things start moving. So I think that is the one sort of things which I found it. Meanwhile, what has happened, there are near about some 3 or 4 committees. One you might be knowing about the Seti Ramaswamy committee. At that time there was they have submitted, he has submitted, or the committee has, this was a joint committee, submitted near about some 2 big reports, identifying near about more than some 13,000 plus acres of the land that has been encroached and all sort of things. And then Colliward committee, you might be knowing about. Of course, I'm not going all sort of things because of some sort of tying and all that. Now, what exactly to cutting short all sort of things, what exactly the solutions for this, what I foresee about the solutions by going through these entire things, I found is the 5 or 6 recommendations. Can you last slide? Last slide, you know? Yeah. So after going through this whole entire things, I found it that these are some of these, from my point of view, 5 or 6 recommendations. Maybe 1 or 2 I left it because of some other things. I thought that Professor Ramachandra will also give some sort of this one, but that I will include. First thing is that always there is lot of, every department, everybody is having his own figure about how many lakes it is there in the Bangalore. There is no proper inventory. Why I am telling is that if you see is the Lakshman Rao committee, there is some figure. Lake Development Authority, there was one figure. Then Justice Patil report, there is one figure. Then A.T. Ramaswamy's report, there is one figure. Then Colliward report, there is one figure. And Arnold's date today, Ramachandra, I was slightly surprised that he is telling only 193 lakes, live lakes. So there is no proper inventory for all these lakes. The first and foremost things it should be done is that how many tanks it is there. I have done some sort of exercise when I was there in the Lake Development Authority. As per this one, in the all 4 taluks of the Bangalore urban district, there are 846 or 45 lakes, which is used or disused, means the live or dead. Leave the Anikal taluk, that is having some 200 and plus. There are some, I think, 600 plus lakes it should be there in the 700 villages. Particularly this, all the figures what I am telling is 846 is based on this, what exactly it has been given in the village maps. Because the village map is the main address for any piece of land. And under that one, these 846 lakes, now these 840 lakes, the first thing it should be then how many it is live and how much it is gone or dead. That sort of a inventory I was about to do it, but unfortunately or fortunately I was transferred out from the Lake Development Authority because of certain other reasons. So that is the first thing. The second thing is that there was this Karnataka Lake Development Authority Act 2015. It has been revoked. It has been revoked in 2018, these amendments. And because of that, this whole the focus of Bangalore lakes has gone up, is not there. Personally, I feel that there is the lot of difference between the tanks which is outside the city areas and the tanks which is within the city areas. There are the different facts and circumstances. So there cannot be a single law which has been now presently it is for the entire tanks or the 36,000 or something like that, that is Professor Ramachandra told, that the one law. No, it won't have any sort of effect. There should be the two laws for the corporation areas, and there should be another law for the remaining tanks. So this Lake Development Authorities Act, which was been, I think it came in the present regime, they may think to revive it. Then the third one is that this appointment of Chief Executive Officer, you see, I was just feeling it very sad that we do have the act, we do have a lot of sort of things. It is a special act, in fact, this Conservation and Development Act, Karnataka Tank Conservation and Development Act is a special act. And in that, there is the Chief Executive Officer. There is no exclusively Chief Executive Officer appointed. The Secretary of the Irrigation Department is having the charge for this one. You see, the Secretary of the Irrigation Department is having the direct conflict of the interest. It won't go with that, even in the natural sort of a circumstances. There should be some exclusive Chief Executive Officer should be designated. That is up to the state government, anybody for that matter, should be there who actually functions. Because he has to coordinate so many things, including the course, convening the meetings and all that, where the Chief Minister himself is the chairman for this authority. So, that should be, I think it should be thought by the state government that there should be some sort of a exclusive Chief Executive Officers, which is not having any sort of a direct conflict with the tanks, interest of the tanks. Immediately. Okay. Then immediate appointment, of course, I have told is the authorized officers. Then the regular meeting of this KTDC, which I told that as per the law itself, it should be, once it should be the 3 months, is not happening. One meeting, it has happened in 2019 itself. And then, this is some sort of a policy decision I think the state has to take, is that development of the tanks should not be done until unless there is the STP for that particular tank is placed and functional. It will solve so many things. We have more than 68, of course, Ramachandra was telling, Professor Ramachandra, but as per my knowledge, there are the 74 tanks it has been developed, and in many tanks we know it, what is the stage and all sort of things. So, and that is mainly because of this ingress of the sewage and effluents, all sort of things it is happening. So until unless the first things, if suppose the state government want to develop any sort of a tank, there should be the STP. And now the STP of the secondary treatment, I think it has gone almost. We should come to the tertiary treatment until unless that is not taken care of. This again, the secondary treatment doesn't make much impact. In fact, of course, it gives the water some good look and all sort of things, but as far as this content is concerned, doesn't make much difference. So these are the some 4 or 5 points I thought that it should be, if suppose that is taken care of by the concerned authorities, there may be some sort of a change of the functioning, of the working, of the management, of the monitoring, of the tanks of the Bangalore, which is very much, I think it is required. That importance has already been dealt by my previous speaker, technically and all sort of things. So with that, I I am given that now there will be some questions, answers, and all that. So with that, I will just conclude with this one, that let's work together. All these 3 or 4 organizations, what I have mentioned, including the courts, then citizens, then government, and then the legislators, for the development of better lakes, tanks, whatever the water bodies you can call it, and some good future of the Bangalore. Thank you very much.